Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us on tonight's Bantha Trail. My name is Abraham.
I'm Alex.
I'm Connor.
And I'm Nathan.
Today we're going to be discussing the Into the Night book. Into the Dark, excuse me. Into the Dark book, which for those of you who don't know is a young adult book, mainly centered around the Jedi Padawan Wreath, and some misadventures that he has while going out to be stationed at Starlight Beacon. So real quick, everybody, what's your opinions on this book?
So, easily the best young adult book by a mile, which is
Without question.
It's a good book. The other two struggle with the writing, unfortunately, but this one's solid.
Yeah, I mean, if Claudia Gray's name is on the front, you know, as the author, that's a pretty good spot to start. I know she's pretty much without question my second favorite Star Wars author across the board. Not even just High Republic. So, it's a good one.
And I concur with the other two where, it's just a very good book. I loved it. Compared to my issues with Light of the Jedi, this book was very well contained. It progressed the story very well written. I loved the characters and the character development within it.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely agree that as far as having just a straight, like a linear story that is being told throughout, definitely does much better in that regard.
Benefits from it a lot more.
Obviously, obviously it does have its moments where it kind of time skips backwards for parallels between the quote-unquote modern-day story and the story of the past from Jedi Master Cormac and
Comac and Orla Jareni, Wayseeker.
Yep.
But more importantly, that story is connected to the other characters in the book. It's not just...
right. It's not just
It's important to the storytelling of this story.
Yeah.
Right.
And I would just tag on to an interesting thought that I had just between the writing styles of Light of the Jedi and Into the Dark is Claudia Gray is a novelist, and Charles Soule, at least in regards to Star Wars, Light of the Jedi was his first Star Wars novel. I'm about 98% positive of that. He tends to work on the comic side of things, as does Kevin Scott, who writes the second adult book, The Rising Storm. So it's just interesting to think about maybe that has something to do with, Charles Soule's maybe more used to covering a lot more scenarios than a traditional novel would, since he's more used to it in the sense of a comic, if that makes sense.
Right. See, and honestly, that's a big reason why I asked you guys to start this podcast with me, is because I legitimately didn't even know the authors' names.
Claudia Gray is, for both me and Connor, and I'm sure Nathan as well, but I haven't got to talk to him about Star Wars books as often as Connor. She's the big hitter for us. She wrote my favorite current Star Wars novel, Master and Apprentice, which is it's a prequel story about Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, and it is fantastic.
And
yeah.
All right.
I also very much like her. She's easily my second favorite Star Wars writer. So there is that bias of she's always had good hitters.
Yeah.
Okay, so for those in our audience who may have not read through the book, what exactly, or not necessarily exactly, but what would you all say are the major plot points as spoiler filled or as spoiler free as possible, that you would say really drew you into the book?
I think for
You
me,
want to start?
Okay, I was gonna say the station. It's a really interesting, not plot point, but not even situation, like a scenario for them to be in. It's a great place for everything to go on. There's a lot of mystery around the station. It's very old, but it seems to be used, so it really helps you kind of. It has a lot for every character involved. And I think it really ties together the whole story very well. Being that and also it's very much focused on the station. I want to say at least 85% of the book is centered around it and people on it.
Okay. Connor?
Yeah, so I would say what drew me in was getting to learn more about the characters of this era, and especially Wreath is probably my second favorite High Republic character, maybe tied for second, as well as my favorite High Republic character, who I'll let you all guess as we continue through the episode. But it does a good job of kind of covering a much more focused group of characters, and I always like character studies, so that's kind of what caught my attention.
yeah.
Nate?
So for me, it's also Wreath was a big factor for it. I liked the fact that they talk about Wreath not wanting to be an adventurer, if that makes sense. Like he when we imagine a Jedi, most of the time we imagine these people that are always out in the galaxy, saving the day from whatever may be befalling the poor citizens of the galaxy. And Wreath doesn't want to do any of that. He just wants to be a scholar. And I love that just idea of a Jedi that's just a scholar. We know they existed, but actively having a main character be one of those is a fascinating character development for me. And the character development of Wreath learning how to balance his desire to just be a scholar while also accepting the Jedi duties of being a peacekeeper or helping people where they can be, if you will.
And I think before we continue with it, we should probably give a brief spoiler-free-esque explanation of the story, just for people who may not have read it but found the podcast anyway.
Right.
The basis is that the story surrounds a group of Jedi, which includes Reeve Silas, who are traveling to the High Republic. I can't think of the name of the station at the moment.
Starlight Beacon.
Starlight.
Yeah, the Starlight Beacon. In lieu of traveling to the Fallout, the Outer Rim, and basically starting a new life for everyone there, whether or not they want to or not. And in the midst of them traveling there, they get caught in the aftermath of the Headsaw disaster, and it's basically about where they end up and what happens to them while they're there.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Let's be as spoiler-free as possible.
Right.
And I would say, needless to say, it's probably going to get much more spoilery as we continue.
Oh, yeah. We'll try and give a quick
Absolutely.
spoiler warning, obviously, but there'll be spoilers.
So, speaking of new characters that were introduced with this book, I know this is a character that we have all talked about previously, and I had no idea what you all were talking about. What is up with Geode?
Yes.
What is Geode? What species is he? I was so lost when it came to that specific character. So, what is Geode?
He's a rock.
He is specifically a rock alien. An alien whose species evolved, I guess, from rocks. They have a name in the book. I do not remember what it's called, but they definitely name his species.
Ventian, I think.
That sounds
Something like
correct.
that.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
And I trust you to get that correct. Yes, there's much debate about whether or not he is actually a living, breathing creature, or whether or not he is a prank that the crew of the vessel, who he is a part in quotation marks, that is pulling on anyone they bring into the ship.
Yeah.
I disagree. I believe he is a character. I believe he's a very important character, and he may be one of my favorite characters of the book. Easily.
He's my favorite character of High Republic. I'll just come out and say it.
That doesn't surprise me.
Oh wow, that was okay. That big mystery
Yep,
at the
yep.
start of the episode.
I
is finally being
couldn't
revealed.
contain myself. I apologize for
I don't blame
ruining
you.
the suspense.
Okay, so we have a race for him. What planet? Like, how is this species not previously discovered by the Republic?
I don't know in the sense of if they are primitive or not. I have a feeling I'm pretty sure this is surrounding Geode and his species, but that they are known for their navigational or astronav capabilities, but they tend to still
Remain on the
stay
planet.
close to home. Yeah, and so he's more of an outlier in the sense of leaving home, if you will.
And to be fair, a book about even a TV show about a planet of flock people who don't move around much probably wouldn't be all that interesting to you.
I beg to differ.
I mean, I would take even just like a nature documentary type show
A
where
new Disney
it's-
Plus feature.
You've just got you've got Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ewan McGregor.
Ellen?
Ewan, excuse me. I said
Oh,
Elwin.
okay.
E-W. It's spelled E-W-E-N or A-N or whatever. Excuse me, Mr. McGregor. For offending you.
You should be sorry. Ellen.
But it's spelled with a W, so that my brain says it Elwin.
That's fair.
So Ewan McGregor, just being a voiceover as we, go to this planet and talk about these rock.
Being the Sir Richard Attenborough for a galaxy far, far away.
The problem is the same kind of argument you have with say fantasy people or Dungeons and Dragons races is that you play you focus on the more interesting people who actually go out and do things. You don't focus on the people who stay at home and live as a lock for all their lives because that's what the people do. You know what I mean? It's of course you haven't heard about them. Why would you? Until Geode showed up. Who of note between a species who barely leaves home and is made up of rocks would Star Wars be like, oh yeah, and this great dude, we love him.
I mean, Geode,
Yeah, I guess.
obviously.
And he's someone you'll want to pay attention to, Abraham.
Does he continue to show up in other
He
books?
shows up in one more so far, yes.
Yes. His greatest appearance so far.
Oh my goodness. It's so good.
So
Anyways.
I'd like to use this moment to actually go on a bit of a tangent or a Bantha trail, if you will, where actually you brought up a good point, Abraham, about the fact how do you justify bringing in new characters to the Star Wars universe? Because you have this issue that you just talked about, why have we never heard of the species before? And they have to somehow figure out a way to justify the fact that this species has never literally been anywhere, and you never heard about it through the thousands of Star Wars media.
Except that it's a galaxy, I feel like if it will focus on a planet, I would say that's a bit unfair to be oh yeah, and here's a species you never heard of. But I think it's fair to say that in a planet that or in a galaxy that we don't really know the real size of, you could totally miss some people all the time. In fact.
Well, and I mean,
And to
I
limit
suppose.
Disney or anyone in the Star Wars process from making new aliens just because we haven't seen them before is kind of pointless when they could be giving us new content that they're interested in.
I fully agree. Like, I'm not saying this is a bad thing in the sense
Okay,
of
gotcha.
like, oh wow, why would
Or
they
just
ever
posing
do
the
this?
question.
It's just more of posing the question of, because it's an interesting thought of you have to somehow justify bringing in these species, and you are right to a degree, Alex, where you can just say by, oh, it's a big galaxy. Of course, there are planets that you've never heard of, which is true. But we're also at a point in the Star Wars where the planets have so many planets have been explored, and it's kind of like connected of the universe, and these species go out and explore, and you have
Sure.
your hub cities like Coruscant or whatnot. So I feel like that isn't the most best excuse from the standpoint of, sure, there are your more secluded civilizations and species out there, but if you bring in a species that's like just more like, oh yeah, this is a commonly known species or whatever, it's a lot harder to justify their lack of existence in the universe.
Sure. But I would definitely argue that, given that the two of the four Jedi that we meet don't know whether or not he's actually a Paulson, I would say that they're not a very well-known species.
Oh, I fully agree. In the sense of geo species, it's a perfect excuse because they don't even know about it. I'm talking more about the situations where they just kind of like, oh yeah, I know what this species is or whatever, and we're just kind of like expected to like, oh great, okay, well, that species is well known, but why have I never heard of them?
Gotcha. That's fair.
So, here's the other thing, specifically with Geode and his species. Most, if not all, beings in Star Wars lore have some, like, connection with the
Yes.
Force. Yes?
Or have the
And
potential
the
to.
Jedi... Right. And, the Jedi are typically capable of sensing those individuals. Correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Why were they not able to sense Geode? What was so different about Geode that they're like, nope, we can't.
Well, he's Geo.
I'd
guy's
hate
not
to use
real.
it as an excuse, but in Legends, Luke Skywalker specifically had trouble, like, sensing out species he hadn't encountered yet. They haven't confirmed whether or not that's true for Jedi of, like, all of the new canon, but I would assume that would be it. It's just simply that if they don't know what they'll experience, if they can't know what they're experiencing it, then, they don't know how to experience it.
So it's like a Jedi
Kind of,
Pokedex?
yeah.
where
I mean,
Yeah.
they
Ola
have-
clearly has no issue with Geode whatsoever, so I would suggest that she's more in line with accepting that he's real
Right.
than the other three Jedi, so yeah.
At least at this point in their story,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, I would also say just from the sense of not just kind of letting the world evolve and not expecting to be familiar with everything is probably a healthier place to come from, rather than worrying too much about, oh well, I hadn't heard of this species before, but I should have, kind of thing.
Right. And once again, I'm not saying that no author or, nobody's ever allowed to add any new species ever again. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, if you're going to follow a set scheme of, like, living beings have a presence within the Force, then they should have a presence within the Force.
I would also say, in the case of Geode specifically, too, part of what makes his character so great is that just that question remaining through the entire course of the book and even
To the end of the
beyond.
book. No, not beyond.
I mean, okay.
We have
Until
I guess
catapult.
a
I mean,
little
let's go
bit.
into spoilers. Like, I think it's time to go into spoilers. Geode
I
actively
gave the
saves
warning
Leaf at the
earlier.
end. Okay, well, Geode actively saves Leaf at the end of the book. I think, as much as we all like to joke, he is a Paulson that moves. Like, you know what I mean?
He is sentient.
Yeah, he is definitely sentient. we like to joke
Yeah.
between all ourselves that he's not, and it's just a bunch of strange coincidences. But he's definitely like a guy that moves, and the book does a good job of kind of making you question it up until that point, and it's such a really good reveal when it finally happens.
Yeah. Especially when Leox is kind of like the Star Wars version of a pothead.
Yeah.
You know, it could very easily just be him, like,
Messing with the
hallucinating or
Jedi.
whatever. Exactly.
Yeah.
Just having fun. It's just done so well. He's a great character. And when he comes in next,
Very well done.
It's stunning.
Gotcha. So speaking of Leox, right? And once again, minor spoiler. During the book, it is mentioned how Leox and Geode, prior to, what is her name? Affy, yes. Prior to Affy joining in the crew, how they had gone on a previous misadventure where they were treated as gods, and how he had a planet named after him. Do you all know within Star Wars lore, is Leoxel still a planet?
Or have they renamed it? I mean, we all taking his world as fact, and not. I mean, I think it was definitely a case of him just messing with people. But I do not know if, like, we say current day, but no one really agrees on what the current day of Star Wars should be. But at least, like, prequel to sequel children times, no one has heard of the planet of Leoxel that I know of.
I'm not familiar with it by any means.
I could look it up, though, if you'd like.
I mean, I was just curious as to whether or not it had been, heard of before. Just because, and from what I recall, it's not that, like, Leox was telling people about this misadventure. It was literally how he wished that Affy would never find out about it. Yeah, like, he was thinking about, this adventure that he and Geode had been on. And how he hoped that she would very specifically never find out about it. So like I said, I was not certain if Leoxel were a planet that you all had known about, or what sort of species lived there, because obviously it was inhabited by some form of sentient species that worshipped him as a god.
Yeah, I can't find any information about the planet. I would assume that if that planet was to get to the point of, like, regular space travel, they probably would have just renamed themselves, realizing that people weren't gods.
Right.
Kind of demystified him, but
So kind of speaking, still on planets that at least I am not super familiar with. Those two planets from the flashback, right? Where their rulers have been kidnapped, and Cormac and whatever the other Jedi's name was,
Orla.
the way secret.
Orla.
Thank you. Went to help them out
With their
what is the
with
name
their
of
masters in the flashback. Yeah.
Yep. What was the name of those planets? Because for the life of me, my brain is
Ooh.
saying
Way to
no.
put us on the spot like that, man. The both of you just didn't remember.
Well, because I know that between those planets is where they decided to put Starlight
Right.
Beacon. So obviously, like, it's of importance enough that the Republic decided that's where they're going to put their outposts for all things involving the frontier or the Outer Rim or whatever it's called. So I just figured that at least one of you has to remember what the names
Well,
are.
unfortunately, it seems like none of us do.
Yeah, it suffers from unfortunately being kind of a B plot, which isn't to say it's bad, but it feels like kind of passes us by as we just gain more information on the characters.
I see. Okay, so then I take it that those planets really have no real impact outside
Unfortunately, they do. The events of the last book take place on the planet of the take place
Where they
on,
were
over one of the planets.
Yeah.
I just don't remember what the name of that planet is because that book is mostly about Starlight Beacon.
And it's also more of a, from the standpoint of importance, I don't think it's anything more important than being an Easter egg.
Like a reference,
oh hey,
How do you mean?
So in the sense of,
I think it's more
this was
Claudia Gray using material she had used before,
right,
which makes
not
sense.
necessarily needing to track the
yeah.
events of
I'm not gonna blame her for it. Makes sense. Kind of helps
Right.
the universe seem more connected.
right.
I got you.
Also, and I hate to interrupt you, but I did
Okay.
look it up, and it's Leoxo is the name of the planet, and it just says that following a brief time during the High Republic, it was known as Leoxo. It doesn't say what the actual planet is called. I think it's just kind of like a throwaway gag for the two characters.
I got
So
you.
it did happen,
Okay.
but yeah, that's all the information I could find.
I
on the
mean,
planet.
Leox could have also just edited Wikipedia too.
That's
so.
just true. Matthew McConaughey himself.
Yes.
Yep.
Leox became
Yep.
real and came to our planet in the future
It's true. All of it.
to edit
Yep.
Wikipedia.
I'd do it.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Would you now? Okay. How would he even have heard about Wikipedia?
I mean, if I were to fly into the future, the first thing I would do is look myself up on Wikipedia. So, because I'm vain like that.
You don't know about Wikipedia. Like you're
Good point.
name the search/information system of the
Good point.
future.
I mean, it's gonna be Google. Let's not kid ourselves. Definitely not gonna be Bing, is it?
Oh wow, that's
I'd use Bing.
Ooh.
Bing.
I know,
is
Connor.
better.
That's why I said it.
Yeah, I know that's why you said it.
Alright,
But yeah, okay. I mean, if that's what we're going with, I guess Geode punched in those coordinates right for him to bring him
Yep.
to the future.
There we go. It all ties back to Geode.
Everything ties back to Geode. It's all
he's the
about
mastermind.
Geode.
as it should. I will love that years down the line when they're finally finishing up the High Republic Air, it's just confirmed Geode was the main bad guy all along, and
Yep.
Markion was just his
Just
shill.
another puppet.
Yeah.
Yep.
Puppets upon puppets.
Geode was actually secretly Darth Vader.
And in addition to that, he is just a rock.
Yes.
Not only is he an evil mastermind, he's also entirely inanimate.
A very full sensitive rock.
Anyways,
That would explain why the Jedi weren't able to sense him through the Force. He's constantly
go.
masking
makes
himself.
sense.
It's all coming together. We see your plot, Star
Yep.
Wars. We know what's coming.
We know you
Yep.
planned this out.
So speaking of the dark side, right? With the once again spoiler alert, but with the Drengir on the Maxim station, right? Obviously, all of the Jedi felt from the time that they got on the station a strong sense of the dark
Yes.
side. Was that from specifically the Drengir, or was that from the I don't want to say
The
curse,
totem
but the
things?
restraints?
And
Yeah, the restraints that the Sith
The
had
wards,
previously put on
yeah.
them.
I want to say it is specifically from the Drengil because when
I agree.
Veef travels to the planet, he senses the dark side while even before the Drengil show themselves.
right. Yeah, I would fully agree that it is
So
the
are
Drengir.
the Drengir, are they like deeply ingrained within the dark side
That's
of
what
the
we
Force?
assume. Yes.
So, from the standpoint of the continuation of the High Republic stories, the Drengir are in the comics. They do not make an appearance in the novels anymore.
They do make a brief appearance. One makes a brief
Oh,
appearance
that's-
in the next one. But
That's
it's,
right.
it's
I
not for very
apologize,
long.
yes.
It's just
not, it's very minor, yeah.
yeah, it's full like someone. It's still someone to fight basically. It's a
Yeah.
obstacle for someone to overcome very briefly.
But yeah, so it's that is one thing about Into the Dark. It does set it up to be almost like they are more of a
But
heavy presence.
and in the sense of the Star Wars universe, they very much are a threat.
And that's the thing with High Republic being a multi-platform saga. In the sense of the comics, it's also something where, I guess, from the standpoint of having some kind of continuity between mediums, I feel like that could almost be a tiny bit, maybe of a marketing thing to get people invested in the comics too, like invest resources in, kind of setting up this bad guy that, while doesn't necessarily make an appearance anymore in the novels, to an extent, there is a large presence of them in the comics.
Gotcha. And it's almost the same way with Avar Kriss as well, who is very much
Yes.
a novel-centric character, despite the fact, or a comic-centric character, despite the fact that
Comic-centric,
she was very much a main character in Light of the Jedi.
I would argue the main character of
Was
Light
she?
the Jedi.
Sure.
Avar Kriss.
She-
I'm legitimately.
That we
She's
don't
the-
blame you.
that even
She was the Jedi lady who was like, she's like the Jedi puppeteer, if that makes sense, in a good way.
She's the one that brought them all together to stop the. Yep.
That's yes. Okay, I
Yeah.
recall now. She was killed.
No.
During the attack
Not
on the
killed.
Nihil.
No, she's alive.
no, she's
No?
alive.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. You may be thinking of Jorah Mali?
Who is Reef's former master who dies.
Right.
Yep. Okay. That's yeah.
So there is a connection there that you're probably getting stuck on. So Jorah Mali was originally going to be the warden of Starlight Beacon, and then when she dies in Light of the Jedi, that's where Avar then steps in to be the warden. So that could be where you're getting caught up.
Okay. Yeah. That does ring a lot of bells. So okay, and then so
I
speaking
can remember this,
of
we can't remember the name of any planets though.
I mean, just two very
No,
specific.
I know, I was just joking.
yeah.
Just playing a joke on myself.
So speaking of the Jedi of Starlight Beacon and the events that go on during Light of the Jedi, why wasn't a single bit of that mentioned in into the
It's concurrent.
Them sensing what's going on, you mean?
yes.
Specifically, I would
Yes,
assume
like-
because of the dark side influence they feel on the Amaxian station.
Almost masking it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, because I was gonna say like they in Light of the Jedi, it makes it seem as though like literally every single Jedi across the entire galaxy is sensing and assisting with
Sure.
the
Right.
the threat to the planet.
And for the most
system.
part, yes. But it's also something where, in this case, like what Alex said, it seems to be, it's not the case for Comac, Reith, and Orla because and Dez, excuse me, and
Who
Dez.
we all keep forgetting is in this book.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because of that dark side presence, just kind of masking them, and yeah.
Also, I don't know if you picked up on it, but there is a point in the book where they go down to the dark side shrine at the bottom of the Jedi temple. That dark side shrine is the reason that Palpatine is able to stay hidden, as far as we know. It's basically it ends up masking the Jedi becomes so centralized on Coruscant that it ends up masking any type of like it affects their ability to sense stuff in the Force.
Okay, sort of like how Dooku says at some point, Yoda's lived so long that next to corruption that you can no
Pretty
longer
much,
recognize
yeah.
Very
this
similar.
kind of
Yep.
deal.
Yeah. If you were to
comparison,
live
yeah.
in a house full of dog poop, you would get used to the smell of dog poop very quickly.
Right. Yeah.
It's fair. So that's another good thing that I honestly didn't realize prior to this book is that the Jedi Temple was built on
Yep.
a Sith shrine. Like,
Yep.
really?
And that's
the-
from Legends also.
Yeah.
As well as it makes appearances in the from a certain point of view Empire.
Yes.
'Kay.
They discussed it in Empire.
Yep.
I believe that
So,
specifically to mention the story, Palpatine is meditating Vader when he realizes that Vader is specifically going after Luke because Luke is his son.
Yeah.
so, if the Jedi are constantly that close to the dark side and its influence, how is it that not more Jedi?
Tell him to the dark side.
Yeah.
Because the Jedi of Coruscant are really good at micromanaging like kids, I guess. Well, if you think about it, every Inquisitor that we see in like Rebels and the
Like Fallen Order
Fallen
and
Order
stuff.
and we'll soon be seeing in Kenobi were once Jedi. So, put that in perspective. It's not that Anakin's the only Jedi who had ever fallen to the dark side at the time. It's just that he's the most prominent one because he's actually a Sith Lord.
Okay, so with the... we're kind of going off on a real Bantha trail here.
Oh,
right now,
definitely,
but-
yes. Also, it's about 40 minutes, so we should be taking a break soon.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, then let me ask this question here real quick, get the answer, and then we'll take a quick break.
Sounds good.
Did the clones just suck at killing Jedi? Like, how is it that so many Inquisitors are around?
That's-
Palpatine specifically
yeah.
signals out Jedi to become Inquisitors.
Did he, like, not tell the clones that they were with to
He
do
gave
the
them
thing?
specific instructions how to kill those Jedi. And then there were other Jedi like what's her name from Fallen Order?
Sayre.
Again, spoilers for Fallen Order. Trilla,
Oh, Trilla.
who
Sure.
who were turned after the fact. There was a very brief window where Jedi all instead of being killed, all captured and turned into Inquisitors as well. Not many, but a number of them.
It's just like, so the whole, because like Bad Batch and towards the end of Clone Wars, it shows how the inhibitor chips are like, they can't fight them, they can't. Did he just program in when he was programming these inhibitor chips to just be like, kill all Jedi except this and this
In
and
theory, he
this
could've.
and this,
Yeah.
and they just
And also, I would argue that Vex specifically shows that Jedi, or that clones could fight the inhibitor chips. So, it's just, most of them didn't want to, I guess.
I mean, very briefly, and and I feel like it's kind of assumed that Rex is
I would also say it's
just sheer.
yeah. I feel like it's. I don't think it's as easy to do as some may make it seem. I feel like Rex is, struggling with it in the Siege of Mandalore episodes of Clone Wars. Really emphasizes the fact that they are
I think it's
completely under control.
to bring it back to an old fight that I love having with Connell. One of the main reasons I'm so upset about Bad Batch retconning Kanan's origin story is that at the end of Kanan's origin story, one of the clones that he works with betrays his other clones and saves his life. And it shows that the clones were able to fight it off as well. Like there were more than just Lex who was able to fight it off. And that change unfortunately has made it so I'm kind of like, well, you've lost a bit of that. I feel like.
It really
I
goes
would
into.
I would argue
Um,
it's better than. Never mind. I'll leave that.
I would say it goes into an interesting conversation about, and this is very much an extreme Bantha trail. Interesting conversation about how much clones are independent, and really
Sure.
it really just comes down to who influenced them. So, like you mentioned, of course, Rex, he's very much like best friends with Anakin. So that and Ahsoka, and so that probably really influences compared to some of these clones, who their relationship with their Jedi counterparts is a lot weaker. If
A lot more
even-
of a business relationship than a personal
So,
relationship.
are you suggesting that Kenobi and Cody weren't close at all?
No.
Because
No.
he doesn't even blink.
Well,
Really? After all the episodes we see of Cody and Obi-Wan in Clone Wars, you don't think that they're even a little bit closer than the average Jedi? And...
so you actually raise
Oh,
a
sure.
good,
No, I
great
think-
point. In the regard of that is a great question of why is Cody or Rex so different compared to Cody? Because both Cody and Obi-Wan and Anakin and Rex relatively have equal relationships.
And a further point, Wolf and Plo Koon, right? Like, Plo Koon goes out of his way to save Wolf's life on multiple occasions. He proves that he actually cares about his clones. And he's just gunned down instantly. So I think the main issue is that it's just they want Rex to fight it because Rex is the main character of Clone Wars, whereas Cody and Wolf are more side
And there's a
clone characters.
further, and his story is more important down the line than like a Wolf's, for example.
Well, I mean, Wolf's also...
Not that it
Wolf's
isn't
also
important.
nervous.
I'm just saying from the standpoint of Rex is a main character of something like Rebels, as compared to Wolf, who is
A side
very
character,
much
yeah.
a secondary character. But yeah, that's opening up a whole can of Bantha trails that I don't know.
I think the main issue is favoritism.
That could be.
And that could even lead
I
back
can't say I
to
disagree.
conversation about not even into the Arc, just the High Republic is you're always going to have that degree of favoritism where your main characters will be focused on, and they're always going to be
A lot more,
special
yeah.
compared to their just NPC counterparts, if you will.
Which is a great way to bring it back to the story we are talking about and also take a break. So let's take a break.
Yep. Yes. We'll be right back. All right. Thanks for hanging in there with us. So kind of just hopping right back into it.
The book specifically.
Yeah, the back into the book, right? So with the creation of Starlight Beacon, right?
Mhm.
Does that mean that there is a new Jedi Council that is created for that beacon?
Nope. They still report to the Grand
Yeah,
Council.
they
Council
have a
back on
marshal,
Coruscant.
which is obviously what Joel Molly was going to take, and then what
What
Ava
Avar?
Chris ends up taking. So
That's right. Marshal, not Warden. I was calling her Warden before.
I believe though that the marshal is on the High Council. Is that correct, or is that a coincidence?
I don't know if it's a requirement.
Well,
But
yeah,
is
I
Ava
don't
Chris
think
on the
it
High
is.
Council?
No,
Yeah,
she's
because I
not.
don't think Avar is. No,
Yeah.
Jorah Molly was though.
Yes. Okay.
I feel like being in charge of your own temple, like fairly large sized temple too, I feel like you basically have to be a part of the council.
You would
You could
think.
maybe.
You could at least make an argument for that case. Do they actually do it?
No.
Probably not.
Keep in mind, we're talking about the Jedi.
Yeah.
They don't tend to do things the right
But
way.
in your question of other councils, though, all other minor councils other than the High Council, they just don't like cover the High Council is in charge of everyone, but they can like make councils to be in charge of like Padawan training or something like that.
There's almost think of it as like there's the presidential cabinet, and then you have the different committees in
and departments within. So.
and departments and within the legislative branch.
Though also,
I love that
confusingly, more than one Grand Master of the High Council. Those three at the moment, I think, of the High Republic.
I love the idea
Including
that there are
Poof?
small.
Including the Poof, which is a shame because that means he gets demoted between now and sometime in the Phantom Menace, which is a crime, Yoda. I would like to have words.
I love the idea
Well,
that
aren't
there
they-
are a bunch of different small, like, subdivisions of like a Jedi Order, where it's like there's an administration branch and logistics and things like that.
Marketing.
There's like a marketing branch of just a bunch of nerdy Jedi that are like, oh, actually, if we do this, it would decrease our popularity by this much percentage.
Yep.
It was like, guys, I think we should take control of the Grand Army of the Republic. And like, ooh, that's gonna be really bad for PR. Actually, we're gonna need you to walk back a couple steps and maybe allow it to happen, but definitely not take control.
So speaking of Jorah Molly, right?
Mm-hmm.
How she is the master of the Padawan Wreath, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Des.
And well,
who we keep
formerly
forgetting about.
Formerly Des,
yes.
Are we supposed to remember Des?
Yeah.
That's
the
Des
point
seems
I
like
want.
a pretty cool dude.
That's the point I want to get to when Abraham's done asking whatever this question is.
Yeah, why was Wreath never mentioned in Light of the Jedi? Like,
I
not
think he
once
is.
was it mentioned that Jorah Molly had a Padawan.
I think he's mentioned like very end, like the
Briefly.
same point where like Stellan's mentioned and Vern is mentioned.
Yeah, when
it's
there's like
a
a
very
group
passing.
shot of the Jedi, yeah. Before
Right.
like the Grand Sandwich at the end, I think there was a brief moment where the Jedi who's there when Joe Molly dies says something about like that Jedi specifically is thinking about that Padawan and where he is right now.
For the life of me, I don't.
It would have been
recall
very
him-
passing. I don't.
Yeah, it would have been very much passing. I didn't catch it until I was listening to it with you, actually. I hold it in passing. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, sure.
So the fact that she was a master and had an apprentice just meant nothing.
Well, I would say it.
I
would
think
have
it's
meant
more of just a
something-
setup for the book. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say it would have meant something more if Jorah was more of a central character of Light of the Jedi. I don't know if she had enough attention focused on her to justify having a whole side jag into, well, this is what happened, Wreath, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I also like how they cover that in Into the Dark, where Wreath finds out. And then Des, I think that had a good bit of impact to it.
Yeah. But to get back to my point on Des, when Abraham said, so obviously there was a point in the book, there were a lot of twists, so major spoiler alerts now. There was a point where it seems like Des Ryden dies. Des Ryden being the former apprentice and now Jedi Knight of Joel Molly. I forgot who Des was for a good bit. I forgot that Des was in the book. Yeah. Like, because obviously, he turns out he's alive, but then he takes the Bulge vow, which is where the Jedi go into exile because they feel like they'll disconnected from the Force. And there's a very good reason why he does it. But he's not in the rest of the books, and he's not even mentioned in the rest of the books. So when Abraham said, oh, Des just died, one, he seemed genuinely upset because Des is a good character. But two, I was like, who? Who are you talking about? And then, like, I was able to be like, oh, yeah, he's not in the rest of the books. So I forgot who that person was for a minute. I apologize.
Sure.
Yeah.
Rip Des.
Yeah, he's a really good character. I hope he comes back.
He is a good character. He has a
solves
he
his issues.
feels like Quinlan Voss. I feel like he has that kind of vibe about him. I think.
Definitely.
Who is Quinlan Voss?
So he's from Clone Wars. He's almost like a Wayseeker in everything but name, pretty much. Where
Definitely.
he's almost like the Black Ops of the Jedi, if you will.
Yeah.
Is
In Clone Wars, he's the guy who he has a green lightsaber. He meets Obi-Wan to track down Cat Bane once. And he has like
with
black
Zero,
dreadlocks,
right?
Yeah, he has black dreadlocks and he has like a gold stripe across his nose under his eyes.
Yep.
I remember now.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's also a pivotal character in the book Dark Disciple, which in my opinion isn't very good. But most people say is one of the better Star Wars books.
Okay, that's a controversial opinion.
Yeah, I know it is. Apparently, I don't know why it is, but
It's
apparently
basically just because Alex is the only person on the planet that doesn't ship Asajj and
I don't ship Asajj of anyone because she's an unattractive character. I don't find her attractive. I don't know why everyone in Star Wars Universe is like, like Obi-Wan's like, oh, be careful, Quinlan. She has a seductive mantle about her. I was like, what? What?
I don't know.
Are you into spiders, Obi-Wan? Do you like long and spindly legs and no hair whatsoever?
I
Well,
just feel
I mean,
like
Sadine.
you don't see her inner beauty, Alex.
Clearly. Yeah, that's on me, I guess.
I mean, that one scene in Clone Wars when Anakin's choking her.
Oh God.
And she's like, harder,
I was
daddy.
waiting for her to. I was waiting for her to say harder, daddy. Like
Oh God.
harder Vader,
Oh gosh.
and you'd be like, what?
Like, what's the name from Fallen Order? Mirren? Marin?
Yeah, Marin.
Yeah, well, she actually has, like, long hair and looks like a woman. Yeah, there you go. That was a nice sister for you, bud. Also, I love the connections between, again, we're on a Bantha show now, but, like, the connections between Quinlan Voss and Cal, in that they're both basically in love with a Night Sister, and they both have that full sensitive, like, touch stuff and
The
consensus
telemetry,
past.
or
Yeah.
I have to think that was intentional.
Right? I
There's
think that
no way they would have just looked at this here and
Almost
like,
to
oh,
the
that's
point
a pure
that-
coincidence.
we know that for at least for a little bit, Quinlan Voss survives Order 66. Do you think that maybe he could show up in a future Jedi Fallen Order book or game? Do you think that's possible?
Yes.
I like
Yes. That's something I've been thinking about actually since I finished Fallen Order, like 700 years ago now, whenever that was.
In the old days, finished it
Yes.
100% it, like some of us did.
Well,
That was
excuse
me who did it.
I didn't want to go
not
get
so
all those
humble
stupid
brag.
plants, Alex.
Why not, though?
Not yet, but anyways, yeah. I think he certainly could, but yeah. I just feel like I got his kind of characteristic vibes from Dez.
Definitely. To get back to
I
the
almost right. I like whenever Dez was mentioned, I literally envisioned just Quinlan Voss. Because I feel like he was described almost the same, right? Dark skin, dark hair.
Sounds right.
Yeah. So, but anyways, and
So,
but yeah,
to-
he's certainly an interesting character, and knowing Claudia Gray, I don't think she would just leave him be.
I will say, I feel like Dez is, of the characters we get in this book, he's the one that's the least, what's the word I'm looking for? Characterized? Like, they hint at his,
Least
he has a
developed?
reason, yeah, at least developed, that's what I was looking for. They hint that, like, he had, like, a cushy job on some, like, royal consort, something or another, where he's basically like a royal guard, and he leaves it for some reason or another, but that's like all we get, and then he's gone. Whereas all the other Jedi who have like weird, strange pasts get like to be told about what happens to them. So I feel like I would love having more stuff about Dryden because I love this character.
Dryden, Dez.
Not this, yeah. Dryden is from
Dryden
Solo,
Voss
isn't he?
too is yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I would love to have more of Dez's character. I'd love to learn more about him, and I hope we get to see him in the future. And obviously, it's totally possible.
Well, I know what you mean by that. I would also say, like, that may be an implication that we won't see Dez anymore, is because it seems, at least to me, Claudia Gray is pretty intentional about who she focuses on.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we see that in the future books, because, you know, Leox, Affy, and Geode show up later on, things like that. So the fact that we don't know much about Dez, except the fact he was an important character in the Wreath, infers that he won't be a major character if ever appear again.
Well, almost
Also-
unfortunately, we know that obviously Claudia Gray doesn't get to have like complete control over the character she makes, given that Lee shows up in the next young adult books,
That's
Yeah.
true.
and unfortunately suffers from the writing of those books.
Right.
So I think it's entirely possible someone else could pick him up.
And I would also, I would add too that it's probably in his best benefit to not ever reappear, because he should probably be best off staying away from the Jedi entirely.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Wreath? Or
No.
Dez?
I mean, probably Leaf too, but
Yeah,
given
just
everything that's going on,
Anybody you care for, yeah.
everyone you care about should just maybe take a hike.
Yep.
if you're in the Star Wars universe, you want to actively make it so you're as far away from the clear main characters as possible.
Yeah.
Jedi are the red shirts of Star Wars.
Especially the named ones. Good old I'm a Gundai, my favorite character. Almost. Never saw it coming.
So speaking of Jedi who kind of pull back from the Order, right?
Mm-hmm.
I found myself actually really liking Cormac.
Comac.
Cormac,
Mhm.
Cormac, whatever.
Great character.
Yep.
If only just because of how it showed his struggle of like, why do the Jedi force me to fight against, you know, all of these feelings and like everything that makes me a person, and say that that's a valuable trait.
Sure. It's definitely something that there's a very clear parallel between him and Qui-Gon. And I would for sure say Qui-Gon is the more mature of the two.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, Qui-Gon is also just a very mature person, so that's not a downgrade to him or to Comac.
Sure.
And even to say, oh, he's a lot like Qui-Gon is very much a compliment.
It's a generalization, but it's that same general, you know, it's that same general principle of not just taking everything that you're told by the Jedi as
wholesale truth.
Right, for the better. Correct.
I would argue it's very much just like kind of showing the same thought process between, say, Qui-Gon and Comac, but just how they react to it is very different and shows
definitely.
their various ways of maturity.
Yeah, we can't get too much into it because he does play a pivotal role in one of the later books that we will probably have you listen to, one of the young adult works.
Comac or
Comac,
Qui-Gon?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would love for Qui-Gon to show up, but unfortunately not.
He's not that old.
Yeah. And the fact that you insinuate it means that Liam Neeson is now coming to get you.
No, please.
Anything but that.
I've seen that Family Guy episode. No, but speaking of like individuals in the Star Wars universe who are just ancient, how long have the Hutts, like the Hutt family, been around? Like, how long have they been ruling the underworld of Star Wars?
When you say the Hutt family, do you mean like Jabba's family, or do you mean
cartel, or
the cartel? Because I definitely do not believe they are the same people.
Yeah, Hutt is the species. The Jabba family is Tyre.
Is it? I didn't know he had a family name.
Yeah, it's like Jabba something Tyre, I think.
News to me.
Yeah, same. I honestly thought that it was just Hutt.
Oh, gotcha. I mean, they all tend to be, at least in the sense of, like, Jabba, he and his family are the royalty of the Hutts, if you will. And,
which really
everybody's
suggests
favorite Zero from Clone Wars.
Really suggests that though, like maybe Walker Hutts or like Hutts who actually had to do things instead of just being inherited into a crime family.
Well, I mean, someone on that planet has to, right? Like,
I don't know, because like it does seem, especially with the High Republic now, that like almost as if the Hutts found a way to like get themselves into a position of power and have been that way ever since.
Yeah, I feel like it's a pretty widespread thing for their species to be well off in comparison, and they have other people do their work for them, kind of thing.
Yeah. The only Hutt that I could think like actually worked quote unquote for a living was the musician one from Tatooine Rhapsody, and I don't even remember what his name is, and that's not even technically canon. So,
well, then how did the species even become spacefaring in that case? Like, at some point in the history of the Hutt species, you know, they had to have worked at some
Right.
point.
I think the insinuation is that they're such an old, powerful race that they've gone now to the point that that's why they look like that. Does that make sense? Like, I don't think they were people in a sense of us at any point in the past, but I think that maybe they were like less fat,
Slug-like.
Less,
less slow, less sluggish, and more like. I mean, we
So-
actually do in the comics meet a Hut that is like ripped.
Oh, that's the best
Like
character
he
of all
will
time.
pull you apart with his bare hands, and you won't mind because it means that he won't beat you to death with them.
Yeah.
That sounds truly awful. Like,
It's a sight to
I-
behold.
I don't want to think about that.
I forget what his name is, but I'm just gonna call him Way the Hut.
Wait. W-H-E-Y?
Yes.
It was a horrifying sight seeing a Hut with a 6-pack.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Like, I don't know
And-
where that would even exist at.
It's right above the tail. I think was maybe
Something
I might
like that.
misremembering. I'll have to look him up. I'm afraid of what will happen if I look up Buff Hut online.
Gosh. Not good, not good, not good.
Above my eyes, above my eyes, above my eyes.
Make sure you have save search off
Yeah.
and incognito mode on.
Oh my gosh, what's that Hut doing to that poor Twilight?
Oh, God. Anyways.
But yeah, I mean, like, we know that Huts all old. Like, they're a long-lived species. I don't know how long. I don't think it's as long as, say, Yoda's. In canon it was, but I don't think that's true anymore.
In Legends it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. I would say at least a few hundred years old. Like, I want to say Jabba's like 200 or 300.
Yeah.
If I'm not
Question mark?
mistaken, he's 300 at the time of
Return.
Return.
When he dies.
Which is because it's a topic that I was bringing up to Abraham. It's all the elves of like elf equivalent of like the Star Wars continuity, all like gross looking. Like they're all like Yodas, all Huts,
Yeah.
all like Poof. Which I love Poof, but he is not a good looking man.
I'd beg to differ.
Then beg.
No, that's actually an interesting point. Like, they're really all of the normal species are almost so humanistic. They even have humanistic life.
Yeah, it's a really interesting take on like long-lived fantasy creatures, and I guess it does make more sense. Like, again, like the conversation maybe we're having, where like the species that don't move much and are kind of small or whatever, like they live longer because they're not running around like us humans with like long, fast heartbeats and just like float out and die at 80 years. But I
Yeah,
think
they
also
basically-
everyone in Star Wars was a little bit longer, right?
I mean, they'd have
I
to
would
just for the
presume
sake
the
of.
life expectancy.
I'm curious where like they decide the general life expectancy of a Star Wars character is, assuming they live a normal life. Like, what is the age of? Oh, they died at a ripe old age of X. Whatever
so
that's
speaking
considered.
Well-
of
Little Senteca lady we keep. I mean, she is
Yeah,
also
Mari.
like medically. Yeah, she is also like medically like long lived,
Stabilized,
like,
right.
Yeah, she's like over 200.
Yeah.
She's a
so
human.
speaking of previous conversations that Alex and I have had while listening to these books, it just slipped my mind actually. I completely forgot where I was going with that.
I'm sorry.
Um,
What's it have to do with Sentecas?
Lives. Sentecas.
No, okay, so
Old
it was yeah, basically like the tortoise analogy, right?
Yeah.
As far as like long-lived species, like you look at rabbits who run and jump and mate a lot, live their lives very quickly. And they live for like what, 2-3 years?
Yeah.
Versus tortoises who barely move at all, spend their lives basically just sitting around and eating and maybe mate once every 100 years or whatever. And those things live for like, a millennia.
Yeah.
I'm starting to think that there is something to just sitting around all the time and not doing anything.
Like there was a total that was older than like the United States of America.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, what's up with that?
What?
It's just, I think it's just inferring that the fattest people should live the longest.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Minimize
I
your
don't know about
movement.
fat. I'm just saying, don't put as much effort into your life, I guess, if you want to live forever.
Don't
Way ahead
stress
of you.
yourself out.
Yeah, just let your
Don't
muscles
worry, be
atrophy.
happy.
You don't need them.
Exactly. Become a hut.
That's what you should.
Life goals right there.
That's what you should infer from Star Wars: is you want to be like a hut.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start eating frogs live from my gaming chair.
Wait, you haven't been doing that, Alex?
No.
I
me,
thought
Bookie.
you were studying French, Alex.
Wow.
You weren't getting immersed.
Someone's gonna have a
I'm
good
sorry
time
to our
pass.
French audience. Yeah.
I say I'm sorry,
Hey,
but I
we-
haven't learned that yet.
We named we named it Bantha Trails for a reason, Abraham. It's fine.
All right. So, going back to the book, right?
Finally.
Yes, finally. Finally getting off of this Bantha Trail to the one that we started on. I didn't realize how little of the Nihil was included in Into the Dark until they were finally mentioned.
Yeah.
And, once again, spoiler alert, the fact that Nan and her caretaker were Nihil, legit, like, I paused the audiobook and I sat in the car in silence for a solid 3 minutes.
Man.
Looking back over everything and being like, no!
That's not true.
It's a solid twist.
Yeah.
It really is from left field, very much so. And I would say that I couldn't even think of any hints that would infer that she was like.
The
it was
only hint
really
you really
veiled.
get is that like she has a blue streak on her hair, and you would not think you wouldn't even think of that as anything because it's Star Wars. People have like golden hair.
It's
Yeah.
that, and I think it mentions her tattoos maybe at one point, and then the only other... It doesn't? Okay. The only other thing that comes to mind as a possibility is, like, her parents being that militaristic, group, or however they explain it. I feel like there's something on that could clue you in. But, yeah,
So-
it's so vague to the point where the plot twist is done very well.
Absolutely. Like, it mentions in the book that Reef is kind of piecing it all together, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the blue streak in her hair, the battle damage to their vehicle,
How it's ugly.
Yeah,
In a
it's
sense
cobbled
of like,
together.
in a sense that in Star Wars, ships are coupled together are called ugly.
yeah. These various things that, like, super minor, like, you wouldn't even begin to question it, really.
Yeah.
Until it's finally announced and you're like, oh, wow. Like,
Yeah.
I was legitimately mind blown over the fact that Nan was a freaking Nihil.
Sure.
And it almost even showcases like how smart Wreath is for piecing those things together.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, because it's definitely not something, that I didn't catch on either until it actually happened. So, yeah, right there with you.
It is quite surprising. The main thing that kind of gets me though, and I think they say that Nan is older than she looks. I think that's one of the things that she puts herself off as being younger to kind of throw people off. But like in the photo book, we learned that there was like a 17-year-old as well who's also working for the Nihil. And it's like, how many of the Nihil's top agents are like 12-year-olds? Because I feel like I'm starting to understand why it's not very well put together.
Very laissez-faire.
Yeah, but I mean, like, the whole point of the Nihil is that they'll, very much like the outcasts or the drinks or like the people that society don't want or don't care about.
Yeah.
And they find a home, unfortunately, with these group of people.
Right.
And so within that logic, they would seem to reason that a lot of orphans would join up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that absolutely makes sense. You know, it's sort of like with any other type of gang. You know, they're looking for a sense of family that they don't have elsewhere.
Well, and the easy prey of who to recruit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely true as well.
Speaking from personal experience, of course.
What?
All your time in the gangs.
Yep.
But
Hut gang for
what
life.
did kind of confuse me once it was revealed, though, is why did Nan not put up more of a fight when she was about to get kidnapped? Or was it literally just because Reith was there?
I would
That she
assume
didn't
it's
wanna,
yes.
Beef was there, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Within the context of Into the Dark, we know. I mean, Reith very obviously is crushing on Nan.
They should be cliffing on Ivy.
And it's something that I feel like by the end of the book, it seems as though she reciprocates, maybe subconsciously, that she actually cares for Reith.
Well, she does let him live, yeah.
Right, but then it seems like there is something maybe a bit more to it than just than it just being one way from him to her.
See, honestly, it seemed less like him to her, so much as her to him to me. Even like before it was revealed and everything.
So the way I look back on it is she was leading him on. Earlier on, but that's where I'm saying, like, by the end of the book, I feel like she subconsciously ended up actually caring for him by that point too, if that makes sense. Like, she was leading him on and kind of playing it cool to try and get on his good side to take advantage of him, and then by the end, it ended up actually becoming a thing.
I gotcha. I mean, yeah, I can see that, you know, looking back on it. But yeah, like I said, like early on, if you had told me that it was completely one-sided and that it was just Reith that was feeling this way or whatever, I would have been like, nah, man,
Sure.
you're not listening to the same thing I am. Or you're not reading the same thing that I am. Like,
Yeah, no, I mean more in the genuine emotion sense rather than
right.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see that now.
Sure.
I said, I just very early on and up until that twist, I would have called you a liar. I would have asked why you're lying to me. But so did the Nihil know about the Maxime station?
Not until Nan found it, I believe.
Right.
So is Nan and her not Tempest,
Caretaker?
Run?
Her guardian guy.
Yeah. That ship.
Mm-hmm.
Is that basically just used as like a, hey, find us hideouts kind of deal?
Like scouting out.
Yeah. Like, what is their purpose in the Nihil?
I don't remember if it's explicitly stated anywhere, in the sense of clarifying what their purpose was, other than if they were just caught there, you know, by coincidence along with everybody
Yeah,
else.
I think they all just popped there.
Yeah.
I don't remember all that much either, but too, unfortunately.
But yeah, I feel like it's more of just a coincidence more than them actually actively seeking out the Maxine station.
Gotcha. And did they figure out what was going on, like what happened with Dex prior to like the Jedi?
I don't
Or,
think so.
I guess Wreath figuring it out.
Well, because that's the awakening of the Drengir period, in the context of the High Republic.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So that's when the Drengir as a species are reawakened.
Okay. So then I guess this kind of answers my other question that I had, which was basically just like the Bind Guild and the Nihil, are they like in cahoots? Do they like work together? Like what's going on there?
Sure. So that's more. That's more something where Affy's mom was doing that behind the scenes more than any kind of official relationship, is how I interpret it.
Mm-hmm. But, I mean, do we know? I assume then that it's never explicitly stated one way or the other.
Not anything more official than the mom working with them, correct? I'm pretty sure it mentions somewhere also where the there are other people that were a part of the contractors that are a part of the Bind Guild that were equally
The slaves.
shocked and displaced, right, because of the mom kind of using it as a front.
Gotcha. And then, so the other thing, because I don't believe it's ever expressed in the book itself, but does Skeever, or Skier, whatever her name
Skier.
is, did she know about the...
Oh, Scover.
Scover. Whatever her name is. Did she know about the Drengir? Like, was she sacrificing her
No.
indentured servants
No.
to the Drengir?
She
No.
was just. It was a station that was dangerous, and she did things traffic to though. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think the Drengir are more of at least in the sense of people coming to the fort or to the station. I feel like that's more of a coincidence that the Drengir were there also. I don't think it was anybody's intention to go there specifically for the purpose of getting or awakening the Drengir. Alex, Nathan, we agree.
Yeah, I'd say so. Like that, everybody was way too shocked about it for it to be anything else, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
we don't know how the people who went there died, because obviously they did, but it wasn't the whole intention for them to die to be sacrifices to the Drengil.
Correct. Yeah.
So then how are the Drengir surviving on that planet that they're trapped on
They're
for
just
so
in
long?
stasis.
Yeah.
Not on the Maxim station, but on the...
Right. No, on the planet. Yeah, they're just kind of in a.
They just live there.
Yeah.
How do we
I
survive
think,
on this planet? That's the home planet, I believe.
Is it? Because it never explicitly states one way or the other.
I'm pretty sure it's their home planet, and they were, if I recall, they were brought to the station, and then, or they were brought to the station for the purpose of maybe being used as like a asset, and then it was realized how dangerous they were, and so they put the totems there to lock them down, and then the remainders were left back on the planet, is how I interpret it.
I don't know where I hold it from, and I'm pretty sure I'm wrong because I can't find any information backing it up. But for some reason, I thought I hold that the Drengil will like a failed creation of the Sith. I can't find information to back that up. I don't remember where I hold it. I don't think it's the case, but I just remember hearing that somewhere.
It would also make sense.
right.
That'd
Yeah.
be really cool if
given-
it was.
Like, but again, I unfortunately can't back it up. And but I mean, it makes sense in the sense that like they'll always like drift in the dark side, and we know that the Sith mess with the Force a lot.
Right.
So
Yeah,
that
and I
would be
would
an
say,
answer to the question of like how did they get there?
Right.
Why are they so stooped in the dark side?
Right.
But
And
all
I
we
would
really
say,
know is that at some point the Sith encountered them and then put them on hold. For
Right.
lack of a better word.
Yeah, I would say it's more of a. I don't think it's them actually like creating the Dren gear. I think it's more of a. They tried to use them and did not end up working well.
Yeah.
Right. Because it definitely does say that the Drengir were the ones that killed off the Maxim or whatever, like whoever built that station.
Yeah.
It's definitely explicitly stated that they're the reason why those people no longer exist.
Right. And the
But
Maxims
somehow-
are actually a faction in one of Claudia Gray's other books, Bloodlines, too. Just as a little Easter egg.
Are they? I mean, it's not
Yeah.
the same people. Because
no,
those
I mean,
Maxims
it's-
disappeared.
but it's the same. It's the same. It's the same group of people.
How do you
the
mean?
Amaxines. It's the Amaxines. It's not
Oh, got
just
you.
that,
But it's
the people from that
not
station.
those Maxims. Got you. Okay. I did not remember that.
Yep.
I don't know how you did.
I'm not
remember
surprised.
that.
It's Claudia Gray, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, the fact that all of that was there, and that obviously the Bind Guild had been using it for so long that it just felt really weird to me that like it wasn't all part of a plan, you know?
Sure. That's fair. Yeah, I just don't necessarily. I mean, I would definitely say Scover is a bad person. I
Definitely.
don't necessarily see her being that malicious.
Or even having a reason to be that malicious.
Right.
I think it's very
in
much
the context
just
of what we know
infer-
of her.
Yeah, I think it's just inferring that she's just more of a head of a corporation that did some gray area or bad things, rather than her being like this insanely evil character.
Yeah. No. Again, like I don't think like the relationship between the Bind Guild and the Nihil, I'm pretty confident rested squarely on her. Like she was the one organizing it. It wasn't other contractors within the guild that were the same.
Right.
Yeah.
By the way, so like once again, I know we've had this conversation in the past as far as like I'm terrible with recognizing the names of species and everything. What is a bivalve? Like, is she a clan person? Because that's what I think of when I hear the term bivalve.
She might be a cow person.
I thought it was.
Bovine.
I thought it was. She mentioned feathers. I had thought it was like a bird kind of creature. Honestly.
Okay, so we all
clearly
have
none
different
of us
images in
know,
our head,
yeah.
I guess.
I can look it
So
up.
let me. Okay.
I got it.
I feel like it's a species that we've seen before, but not like heavily featured, like just like a background character in Clone Wars or something.
Yeah.
I
How do
don't
you
know, like I
spell
said,
a name? I'm just gonna guess.
Scover.
Of course, it's with a C.
Skover, maybe.
No, SC.
It is SC.
Because
Okay.
it's Star Wars. Okay, yeah, they were in Clone Wars. They are not pretty looking people. I'm being very rude today. I have no idea how to explain them. They're semi-aquatic, really big eyes, tall, lanky. I will send you a picture of them. People
Okay.
who are watching us, I apologize. Or listening, I apologize.
You're just
look up
now,
bivalve.
now
for
you've got the
yourself.
spell. Yep. Now you've got the spelling of it. Look up the bivalve, and you too will be just as surprised as us at how they look.
It's spelled for the people who are now looking up at home. Bivall. So that's how you spell bivalve. Or bivalve. Star Wars spelling is so much fun.
Oh, I remember that character, or the character that was that species. She
I
was
don't.
evil or something. I just remember that
Yeah,
faith.
yeah, that's who I. Okay, so that's who I thought.
She was one of the scientists that worked with the Zillow monster.
Oh wow, that's the throwback. That's an episode I haven't watched in who knows how many years.
Yeah,
Because they're
she
kind of
was,
mediocre.
She was what?
What? What did you say, Nate?
I didn't like the Zillow monster.
I did. Okay, yeah, I didn't either. I thought it was a weird kind of like not transgression. That's not what I'm trying. Weird like it was a weird thing to put in Star Wars. I almost said Halo. It would not have been a weird thing to put in Halo. That stuff happens all the time in Halo.
But
It
yeah,
was
she
just-
she was the scientist that that Palpatine worked with.
Gotcha.
That's right. Yeah, somewhat clammy then. Like
Yeah.
you look at that.
Semi-aquatic.
I see a clam. Yeah. So I wasn't too far off then when I was like, bivalve sounds clam-like, i.e.,
Yeah,
clams are bivalves.
sure. No, I
Alright.
I certainly get the train of thought.
I'm kind of, I do find it really interesting though, like how differently we can all interpret it. As far
Sure.
as like, I pictured a clam. Alex apparently pictured a cow. Nate pictured some sort of bird thing.
There are too many species in
Um,
Star Wars. It's hard
they're
to
all-
keep
they're-
track.
Yeah. And now I say now, and they introduce stuff like Geode.
Oh, that
Rock.
slug thing from Rise of Skywalker that's like in a scene. No, that one. I don't mind. I don't hold it against you for forgetting
Oh
about
yeah, the one that's on the Falcon at the very
it. Yeah,
beginning. Yeah.
and that's it.
I legitimately don't know what you're talking about.
You're not missing much. All I remember is that like they showed it in a promotional picture and they talked about it like longer than it's in the movie.
Yeah.
They give this like in-depth explanation of who he is and like why he's joined the resistance, and then he's in the first like maybe 10 minutes of the film.
Yep. Sounds about right.
I mean, isn't that kind of how these books and everything kind of come to be anyways? Like, someone hyper fixates on a specific random Star Wars character
Yes.
that's in a scene and
Yeah,
write a full-length
I mean-
novel about it.
yes, but it's different when you specifically like promote a character from the movie and then he doesn't do anything. I
Well,
feel
it's
like-
also possible he could have, and then
Is it though?
in the course of all of the writing nonsense, if you can call it
Cutting
writing,
room
that
floor
went
kinda
into
deal.
Rise of
Yeah,
Skywalker.
if you can call whatever
Um,
J.J. Abrams does to a script
Whatever
writing.
that was, it could be he was cut. Who knows? I don't necessarily care that much.
All right, well, I think that
I feel
this
like
is where we're going to go ahead and call it for this episode. Thank you all again for joining us on our Bantha Trails.
yeah.
We hope to see you next
Well,
time.
more than last
I've
time.
been
Bantha
Abraham.
Trails. Yeah. Get used to it.
Yeah, this is pretty much always how it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
The books will just
Yeah,
as
well,
keys.
that's why. It's kind of why we came up with this name.
Yep.
So,
You're welcome.
I've been Abraham.
I've been Alex.
Connor.
And Nathan.
We hope to see you guys next time.
Bye bye now.
Bye bye.